Define a recruitment director.
Where would I start? I'd probably say it's a big title for the roles and responsibilities you do. But in terms of a definition, it's someone who's leading like a certain division towards more holistic goals of the company and bringing loads of different strands of managers together towards that main goal. So in my case, it would be a contracts director, and then there may be, say, a permanent recruitment director, but my responsibilities are solely for that division and ultimately like the path it takes towards what ultimately is my budget that I need to hit, and a whole different set of targets that I need to hit, like headcount, etc. too, if that makes sense.
Thank you. What value do you create in your work as a recruitment director?
So the way that I look at it, I want to try and bring value to people, and I think as not being a kind of direct manager to people as a contracts director as I am now, or like I was in an AD in my former role, it's almost like having that maybe half an hour with someone, or maybe some when a process is at a critical point, to be able to say, right, this is what you're looking at, like this is your situation at that time. How would I potentially help and upskill or make that situation better? So hopefully I bring value is that, and ultimately like the way that I would hopefully say that my teams would think about me and what I try and do is create a creative level of energy and like a good environment where people come in and work and feel comfortable in it and ultimately like be the best version of themselves. So yeah, I want to try and bring that value to people through those kind of core messages and those core behaviours really.
Thank you. How did you come to become a recruitment director?
Yeah, I'd say it's been a really cool journey to be honest, and yeah, if I look back now to where I was, it's 7 years ago to tomorrow when I first went into recruitment in my first role. And if someone would have sat there at this time and said, like, you'd have like progressed through the levels that you can get through in recruitment during that time, I'd have probably left them under the table with good reason. But what I would say I've done during that time is embraced every position throughout. So in the first instance, when I was a grad, be like a sponge, take everything in as much as possible, make as many mistakes as possible. And then as I kind of progressed through to a senior and like a principal, become like a more astute person and like more of a master of my like sales craft per se. And then the management side came along, so I'd split it into two different ways that I've been a recruiter. It's like myself, the individual, and then more about as a management side. And then once I started to grow a team, it was then, right, how do my targets change now? How does my day-to-day change? It's strange going from kind of being like your own house and just managing it to then having to manage like multiple things at the same time and spin those plates. So the second half of it has been fantastic, and growing my way up and embracing every single position and the different challenges and nuances that come with it as a result has been really good. And all of those different experiences hopefully intertwine with each other to set me up with a blueprint of what I can do as a contracts director now. So it's and as a long answer to that question, I'd probably say like embracing the change, using all of those experiences, but then make it a fluid process and dynamic the whole time to then shape where I am now and where I am at now, and then hopefully into the future too.
Thank you. How do you feel when you're working as a recruitment director?
So how do I feel as a recruitment director? It brings me like a lot of passion. It brings me a lot of responsibility. Like at the moment, I've got 14 people in my team. So ultimately, I'm responsible for them. I'm responsible for their careers. I'm responsible for their development. And it hits me hard if something doesn't work out for someone. I think in the recruitment game, I'm not naive, or the industry isn't naive to the fact that there's maybe a higher turnover than other industries. But still, if someone doesn't work out or it's not for them, and I feel that I can marginally change that to change their experience, like it hits me hard. So I've become better in terms of my emotions and regulating those, whereas in the past, like the feel of the job would drive me to decisions, and I might be irrational, and I probably could have handled things a lot better. But over time, I think I've I think I've developed a better understanding about how to deal with those emotions, and ultimately use that passion positively in a good light. And when things aren't going so well, like ultimately I'm the face of it, and if I'm negative, then that's going to spread to the rest of the team. So it's definitely staying regulated on it and having a positive channel to be able to hopefully inspire people in the team. So ultimately, the feel of it is probably like what drives me, and it's a massive part of my ethos. And Bucky, I think you working with me for a while, I'm sure you'd hopefully testify to the same somewhat.
How much money do you make as a recruitment director, or a vague kind of rough amount?
Yeah, so like it's definitely like a higher base than roles, but it's very much, but it shifts from like a base salary to more of an incentive package, as opposed to a lot of people go into recruitment for their own individual billings. But I'd probably say a key categorization about being a director is, for most people's recruitment career, it's about their individual commission. It's about them, whatever they can influence on a day-to-day basis, they'll see the merits of that in terms of their own individual commission. Whereby on the director side, it's a little bit different. So the shift focus towards a team target, and ultimately every single person part of that machine, every cog is super important, and should a few kind of people not hit their targets, it really makes a meaningful impact on the wider package for yourself. So pretty much, like, I think the most standardized way in which it works would be you get a base salary, and then you'd get an annual target that you'd be set by, like, your CFO, for instance, or your managing director, and then throughout the year you have to try and hit that number. And on the contract side, especially, the first half of the year is fundamental towards that. So if you're behind, it's really hard to make that up towards the latter half of the year. So you have your base, your annual bonus, and then some companies, such as the one I'm at the moment, there'll be a quarterly bonus. I think those things are really, they're really incentivizing, because even if you're not where you're at in terms of where you need to be in the yearly target, like every quarter is like a new time to say, look, come on, we can do this, like, let's go and achieve it together. So it's a big shift, and for a lot of people, especially in recruitment, they'll be like, well, I'm absolutely not doing that. I'm not putting the trust of my back pocket or my earnings into other people, especially when you get to director. Like, you're realistically going to have more than 10, 12 people in your team, so that risk is quite spread across a lot of heads, which makes it more difficult. But ultimately, like, it's something that I love, and I work better towards like a team ethos and doing it together, and ultimately going to that target. So there's loads of different facets towards the package for a contracts director in my case, or even just a contracts a director in just general recruitment too. So
thank you. What is a kind of salary plus commission range within the industry, would you say, as a recruitment director?
Hopefully my immediate team are watching this right now. No, I'm only joking. So the range that you'd have would probably be it can kind of really differ between different agencies. And some agencies will be a lower base but will give more incentives on the bonus side, and then some agencies will have a higher base but that'll be mitigated obviously on the bonus structure side. But I'd probably say like a base salary is anywhere between say like 80,000 up to say 100 or 110,000 in some exceptional cases, but the kind of spread of experience in a contracts director can be pretty vast. So my experience, for instance, I was an AD for a year, and now I've been a director for six months. So still very embryotic in it. But some people can be recruitment directors for like 10 years. But they'll go through different levels and different structures of what that looks like. So ultimately, it's more of a reflection on how long you've done the role for before, say, you would then proceed into be like an executive director or a managing director and so on and so forth. So the long-winded answer to your question, Becky, which will be a running theme in this discussion, as you know me, would probably be like anywhere between 80 to 110k in terms of a base salary and beyond, and anywhere for like a bonus structure from anywhere between, I don't know, like 20,000 up to potentially the full salary in some cases. So yeah, the brackets are like are pretty vast in terms of what you can get.
Thank you. What would you say is the peak position to be within recruitment? What's like the highest threshold point in that career?
So obviously the natural answer to that would be a CEO of a company, but a lot of people will kind of want to avoid the politics and the other side to those kind of really executive C-suite positions, very much strategy based. And yeah, you have about 10 different titles on your door as a CEO, from like people management to liaising with VC companies or investors or a whole host of different things. Whereas I think some people just want to go down the recruitment route and just be their own individuals and focus on that. So yeah, there's loads of different ways in which you can look at it, and it's not fair to say that one's probably higher than the other. It'd probably be a case of what would suit that individual person better. And recruitment's like a pretty weird industry because you can earn so well in it as an individual contributor. So in many cases, I'm pretty sure it's probably indicative of every like major recruitment company. The best billers will 100% have a better package than the CEO, which seems pretty crazy, right? However, yeah, once you get to an executive position, then your options become a little bit more different. Is it a case of equity in the company? Is it a case of more bonuses and whatnot? So yeah, job titles in recruitment are a little bit different, and they very much reflect on the type of work in which you're doing. So to say the most important one, what is the most important thing? Is it the top biller who's making £2 million for a company, or is it the CEO? I'd always argue the CEO, but yeah, I'd ask your viewers to debate me there on which it is, and all of the individual contributors that I know out there that definitely like their ego would definitely stipulate for themselves being the most important driver in an organisation. So it's pretty interesting to see the spread of it all, really.
Definitely. What is your specialisation, and what would you say is your kind of unique approach as a recruitment director?
Yeah, so I'd probably say like a personable approach and someone who will do what I'm not asking people to do, what I'm guiding people to do. I'm very much like a believer in like hopefully working from the front, like leading from the front, actually saying to people, right, this is why I'm asking you to do references, this is why I'm asking you to get leads, because I want them to see the value in it, and walking them through that process, as opposed to saying you need to do this because I'm telling you, because then it's not going to resonate, and people are only learning if they see the value in it and they've actually done it themselves. So I'd probably say like that is my approach that I always try and like to guide, and also kind of like a mentoring perspective too, and coaching people through things is quite a big thing for me. Like it's super rewarding, like some of the stuff that I've done, and in terms of interviewing people for the first time when they're still at university, and then they come in their first week, they go through academy. I'm really enjoying like training people in terms of our grad school at the moment, for the first 2 weeks where people join us, and I see where they're at in terms of that stage of their career. They don't know anything about life sciences, and then after 3 months they're showing me how well they're doing, and the lingo they're chatting like on the phone is exceptional, and then 6 months later they're so much more developed, and yeah, it's really nice to see that development, and especially when you work with people for a number of years and you almost sit there being like, wow, it's a really cool journey we've been on to where you're at. And also seen people that I've worked with that are far more talented and far more astute at me than recruitment, within a recruitment field and a recruitment setting is really cool to see. Like, I want people to be the best version that they can be, and if I've played any role in that and imparting my knowledge into that development, then it's a really cool thing to see. So yeah, I'm pretty passionate about that, and I think that really is fundamentally like my DNA as a contracts director, and I'd probably argue like throughout my management career has always been the driver.
Love that, thank you. But what is your specialisation? In
terms of like what we do as a company, or?
Yeah, like you're a recruitment director, but do you in a certain like field?
Sorry. Good question. So our organisation Skills Alliance work exclusively in the life sciences field. So the life sciences can be pretty vast. The way that I'd summarise it would be we cover the pharmaceutical and medical device and say animal health and chemicals aspects of life sciences, and ultimately we're like a full service provider throughout that life cycle essentially. And then the specialisms within that is we have certain teams for each facet of that industry. So ultimately the way we position ourselves is like inch wide, mile deep in that approach. So everyone becomes really specialised in their particular areas, and then my particular specialism in terms of Skills Alliance and also the way that I've always done recruitment is on the contract side. So there's permanent recruitment, whereby you will place like a full-time employee, and then the client will then engage with that person directly. Contract's a little bit different. The natural challenges that come along with that. So yeah, it's a pretty cool space to be in, and not only is it just doing recruitment services, it's like advising clients about how we bring a dynamic workforce solution to them, which can ebb and flow with their business critical goals, and also as well, in an ever changing economy, I think that way of working is becoming so much more prevalent now. So to kind of have a good knowledge, I would hope, of that area and be able to sit down with a client face to face and really advise them on that, and suggest other case studies where we brought value is a pretty cool space to be. And final thought on it, it's super reactive, super quick. So someone like myself who has quite a lot of energy, it's definitely a good platform for me to really like foster that energy. It's something I've always done. So yeah, if I did permanent, it'd feel a bit strange. So yeah, something I've always enjoyed and continue to still enjoy to this day. Everything's always different.
Perfect, thank you. What would surprise people to know about life as a recruitment director?
Good question. I think just like how multifaceted it is. Like, I didn't really appreciate it when my ex-bosses were like doing stuff the whole time, and they were like, going from stuff to stuff. And I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, you can go from one meeting focusing on one thing to like something like totally unrelated. And I know obviously people have that in their job on a day-to-day basis, but anyone who's worked in recruitment or sales environment for that matter will appreciate that it's very much like a process driven job when you are a recruiter. So you kind of do the same things every day, and you become very process orientated with everything. At this time I'm going to focus on this, and then this is what I'm going to do then. However, as a director, everything's like a curveball. Like one thing will come up, like a compliance situation, and then you've got an internal thing about strategy, and then you're discussing where your headcount's going for the year, and then the next thing you're jumping on like a call with someone permanent because they want to actually take them on contract as a contractor now, just straight out the blue. So they're just like a few examples of things changing and evolving constantly, and that's what I'd probably say there's the most surprising thing. Like every day is totally different, and I'd probably hopefully like to assume I'm pretty good at handling like things popping up the whole time and irregular things happening. But if you're very to the T and like following like a certain model, I think you'd be surprised about the differences, even though you're in a recruitment environment, the differences between that and say the more kind of day-to-day recruitment job.
Thank you. What is the most challenging thing about being a recruitment director? If you had to pick one.
So 100%. I'd say the biggest challenge is also like the funnest part about it. If that is such an oxymoron, but it's people, and managing like a large set of people is a great thing and it's a blessing, but also as well it's like it can be really challenging at times. And if you're not hitting your numbers and you're not where you need to be, but you know everyone's working as hard as they can, and things and there's different variables at play which people can't control, it's almost like you're sitting with someone saying you're doing all that you can do, so keep doing what you're doing. But the biggest challenge is like people need to see results, and people need to see if you're in the kitchen cooking for 6 hours and you work really hard on it, and then it goes tits up out the blue for something you can't control, like the power goes out and you need to evacuate your house or whatever, and you can't eat it. Bit of a strange example, admittedly, but like the nothing adds up in that situation. And it's very much the same in recruitment. It's like you work really hard, you put all your focus into things, and sometimes they don't play out for no fault of your own. And I'd probably say having to manage people on that basis is super hard, because things aren't ever going to work out well, and you need to keep people self-regulated, but also you need to keep yourself regulated. And if you let your guard down, then it really kind of translates through to the rest of the team. So the biggest challenge is definitely kind of keeping everyone happy, and you're not going to keep everyone happy as a contracts director. You're going to have to make decisions that are going to piss people off, but ultimately you have to put the team and you have to put the organisation before every individual, which is a really tough decision, especially when you want to please people the whole time, which is something that I'm hopefully getting better with. But the biggest challenge is really having to make those decisive decisions about people when you know that it's maybe going to upset people, and it's maybe not a reflection on themselves or their ability, but ultimately it's the best thing for the team, and that's what you got to think about. So the people's the blessing and the curse at the same time.
Thank you, that was awesome. What are the different pathways to becoming a recruitment director? I think we've kind of covered this, haven't we?
Yeah, I could answer again for sure. So a few different ways. You can ultimately like be a recruitment director of your own company if you wanted, and I think a title is only something which is given to you, and every company will have a different categorization for what they see in terms of like some sort of leadership role or a manager. So there's loads of different ways. If you're good and you want to set up on your own and be the master of your own ship, for sure, you're the director of that ship, so you'd be classed accordingly. I think in larger organisations, it's very much based on experience and working your way up and through the different layers where you learn different things along the way. And that's obviously the route that I went down, so I have the most knowledge on that. So yeah, ultimately there's different ways to it, and you can work in recruitment for 25 years and not want to go down that route. You can work in recruitment for 5 years, for a year, and do really well and just want to be an individual contributor. But then if you want to go down that management side or whatever, it normally takes a few years of being in a management role whereby you can learn about how to manage those people and work to some sort of P&L and work to some sort of targets, so you can be comfortable in managing that and ultimately guiding the team around those targets to the objectives that you need to get, which are usually set yearly and then quarterly.
Thank you. What type of personality traits suit working as a recruitment director?
Ooh, good question. So yeah, I don't think I'd answer for myself for this really. I'd probably answer for the traits and behaviours that I have seen with people that I've worked with. I'd probably say someone who is driven. You have to be driven in that capacity. Someone who's able to regulate their emotions pretty well. The reason why I'd say that is the way that I would summarise as well being a contracts director is you're that shield between that real senior leadership above and then your team below. And some of the things that are said from the C-suite I wouldn't be privy to, and then some of the things that are then said around me I obviously am privy to, but then my team wouldn't be. So it's almost like layers of defence mechanisms to be able to pass on that message to your team, but at the same time almost protect them somewhat, because that information isn't relevant for everyone. So someone who's able to really navigate those processes well and effectively use them for motivation, and then also to motivate themselves, I think is quite an important one. And then lastly, like someone who can just naturally connect with people. I think that ultimately your team needs to buy into you, and trust is hard to come by. It can take a lifetime to build, and you can lose it in an instant. So someone who can really kind of get their team to buy into them, that knows that they really care about them, and ultimately fighting in every corner for them should it come to it. So those three traits I'd probably say are the most important behaviours, and definitely some amazing people that I've worked with have encompassed those. So yeah, hopefully if I can have half of those traits, then should hopefully be all right.
Thank you. What skills lend themselves well to the job, and why?
It's a good question, and skills can come in a form of different in different forms. Essentially, I'm trying to say, skills can come in terms of like technical knowledge, which I think is probably not as important as a contracts director or a recruitment director in general, because the higher up you get, the more spread you're working with, typically in terms of like industries you're working in, the types of markets you're working in. So the basics of recruitment are the same in whatever arena that you're playing in, essentially. So the skills that I would definitely say are the most important would be a good knowledge of what a good process would look like. Soft skills are super important. Understanding situations, working collaboratively in teams, but also as well having that, I'm not going to say killer instinct, because it's quite intense, but having like a certain level to be like, right, this is the right call that I need to make. I appreciate what other people are telling me and the different aspects of this situation, but I need to make a decision here and be very kind of succinct with that. I think that's a really good skill. So what you'd call that, I'm not too sure. But and then also as well, level of compassion.
What you could see, what you could hear, what you could smell, what you could touch, and just kind of walk us through what that moment is like and why it's a kind of good feeling to have in that role.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I probably couldn't pinpoint like one moment, but I always, like, my number one DNA driver is like celebrate every win. And for me, a win can be something so small as someone getting a lead, someone gets like some really cool information on something, like someone gets a CV out, which is really hard to get out, someone does a monster deal over 100k, we hit our budget or whatever. Every like win's a win, and yeah, I get more satisfaction and I get more drive out of my team doing well than anything that I could do, which is probably a bit strange because it's probably easy to categorise your own win. You'd probably be like the best moment you had, but that's all trumped by everything my team's ever done. So because I've had so many different teams, it'd be really hard to pinpoint like, oh, that was the best moment with that team, because all of them have had so many different things. But ultimately it's just feeling that sense of achievement when things weren't going well, when like you're there at 8:30 at night in the office doing something that you think may not be working out, and then it comes to fruition, or a client leaves you like a really good testimonial being like, you actually really helped us out there, and the project would have been absolutely stumped had you not have come in and assisted. And in our role we get 99 no's, and the no's can be pretty brutal at times genuinely. So when things go well and there are successes, like you really appreciate them. And it's definitely came from, I think that ethos definitely came from my first 6 months or my first year. Like it's quite hard. Like I wasn't the best, I wasn't the highest performing person, and I was quite slow getting going. So everything I was naturally skeptical about. And then I still hold that to this day, whereby I won't celebrate something like properly until it comes in, but when it is, like, it makes it all the more worth it, because I've sat there when things are like really difficult or you're not doing too well, and if you can embrace that and go through those hardships and weather the storms when the good times do happen, like everyone's buzzing for you. And yeah, it's kind of a little bit maybe of a sales phenomenon that people don't have in other industries, whereby like the lows are pretty low, but yeah, the highs are really fun. And yeah, spending it with other people. I've always been quite a big sporty person, so I love like sharing that joy with other people, which is really rewarding. So yeah, I definitely embrace it, and something that really drives me and motivates me big time.
Thank you. 5 words to describe your job.
5 words to describe my job. I would probably say fun, challenging, rewarding, dynamic, pretty humbling too. It's kind of like a last one, because it is tough. It is tough, and anyone that's looking to join recruitment or go into the industry, like, we talk about all the successes quite a lot, but I'm not going to cherry pick it. A great mind in recruitment once said to me, first year is about learning, second year is about development, and third year is probably your earning year. And if you have that mentality and you can weather those storms, then you're going to see great successes. And I would always advocate that you deserve those successes, even when people are paid crazy amounts of money compared to other industries. But yeah, it does humble you at times. Like, you get a lot of no's, some people don't treat you maybe with too much respect, but those things happen, and that's always going to happen in life. And if you can weather that and ultimately focus on the main objective of hitting your personal goals, like, you've got to have a reason to do this job. You can't just roll up every day and just be like, oh, I'm here to do this for the crack, essentially. Like, you've got to have a motivation. In my first instance, it was to save for a deposit, and now I've got other goals that I want to try and go for, and yeah, that's got to be your ultimate driver towards it. So it's going to be humbling and challenging along the way, but yeah, those other things will come. So ultimately the things that I've described there are both good things and also quite negative at the same time. So yeah, there's not a common theme there, is there, Becky?
Just lastly, where can people see more of your work? Can they find you online?
So yeah, in terms of my work, I'm actually a bit of a social media guru. So I'll do that again. Where can people find my work? So I'm actually not really on social media, so this is a strange one for me for sure. But I'm definitely on LinkedIn, of course. It's quite an important job to a recruiter's job, and then probably on Strava. I'm quite a keen amateur athlete. Amateur definitely be the key word there. So yeah, you can find me at Will Paton. Breaking the boundaries of 200 followers, big time.
Big man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely. So, just obviously, we had this amazing. It is a conversation, but you're having a conversation with the camera, and a few things kind of jumped out at me. And I was kind of thinking, what would you say the kind of misconceptions about recruiters? Like, what do people when what the populace when they hear recruitment, what do they think? I'd be really interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, it's got, rightly or wrongly, whichever way you look at it, it's probably got quite a negative reputation. It can come in a few different ways. Like, has sales probably got the best reputation? You'd probably argue not. Also, it's quite a hard job. It can be quite a pushy job, which for some people can be quite difficult. Also, some of the cultures in recruitment throughout the years have been quite a work hard, play hard. Hate to use that term, but it's true, and there's been kind of quite a party culture in it, like maybe financial services, etc. So it's one of those industries which is.
Is that for a reason though? Is that because the kind of stress of the job or the kind of intensity of the job? Is there just almost a need or a perceived need to kind of release and have the beers, etc., and drink a lot and etc.?
Yeah, it's definitely I think in most jobs that are quite intense, that when you're working long hours, like a Friday comes and you're like, all right, come on, let's go to the pub. Also, you're in the city of London, you're in Canary Wharf, you're in places where that behaviour is probably encouraged, but it's just the norm, right? Also as well, it's a really young environment, so young people around young people will be like, well, come on, let's go for a beer on a Friday.
Yeah, because
or
it's
Thursday.
Massively in recruitment, from my experience. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's heavily kind of using kind of graduates, entry level, get them in as grads. So they're growing up out there. They're actually, they're not. They might be 18, they might be 21, etc., etc. They're kind of being brought up. That's their going out, isn't it? They're working hard. They're going out. So in a way, I guess it's kind of normal, but kind of maybe even intensified.
Yeah, they've literally just come out of uni, so they've gone from living a uni life to then straight into a job. To go from from one experience to the other, literally like that, there's going to be some sort of crossover, and it was definitely prevalent in my first year. But yeah, it's just one of those industries that is, you work super hard in it, so there's always going to be a natural release there. But in terms of the industry as a whole, it's fundamental for companies to be able to find the best people. Not only are we here to find CVs for people, but the thing that I enjoy most about my job is working as an extension of their own talent services, and in terms of consulting with them, what's their retention like, who are their competitors, where are they losing their talent from, where are they getting their talent from, and really working with them to actually hit their goals, as opposed to here's one level of our service, is how do we support you on the whole, and be that extension of their own talent services.
Yeah, you're really partnering with businesses, and it just seemed to be a good model to have to actually deliver the highest level of service to your
to your clients, and it's not cheap, is it? Because you do charge decent whack for the service.
There's a premium on it, and we're not shy about that. And yeah, it's a really weird industry. Like, how many industries are there out there, whereas you only get paid when the full thing is delivered?
Yeah.
So you can work a process, and the reason why I say we have to be quite savvy about what we work is you can work a process whereby you work on it for 6 weeks if you're a perm recruiter, maybe even longer in a lot of cases, or contracts is a bit shorter. They don't get the role. You've done the exact same process into someone who gets the role, but then you only get paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why our services are probably quite expensive is it has to make an average in terms of the work in which we put in terms of the benefits we get out of it. And even in contracts recruitment, there's even an extra layer to getting that payment. Say if someone's there for a 12-month contract, we only get paid the full amount for our services on the last day in which they work of that project. So
fair enough.
Yeah, that's probably why there's a certain premium to it.
So on a business level, basically you also have to factor in all the potential failure as well, I guess.
Yeah,
is that right to say? Just for the business to work? If you don't place, a certain amount, etc., in certain times.
Yeah, ultimately, I think like an average percentage of even each job that comes into the business. So each vacancy we take from a client will be, in some places, anywhere between 1 in 12 to like 1 in 8. So for each 12 jobs that the company pulls, they may place one of them, or like in good scenarios it's 8. On the contract side, it's probably for each three roles come into the organisation, we'll do a placement. But roles that come in are far less frequent on the contract side. So if you factor all of those factors in and look at your P&L in terms of your cost, in terms of your office space rent, because obviously it's most recruitment agencies are in a team environment, so naturally they're going to hire offices normally in good places like the City or Canary Wharf if we're thinking from a London lens. So then there's software costs, there's computer costs, there's a whole host of different things. And then also when people are doing pretty well, a lot of commission costs too. Like most of the money for like a really good recruiter, yes, they're bringing a lot of money, but also like taking most of that money is going straight out the door to go to go into their back pocket, right? So yeah, I think people don't really actually like
LinkedIn licenses,
they're not cheap at all. So yeah, I think people just see it as like that's the money that comes in, and yes, they must be really profitable. But yeah, I think at the moment, like a really good example of this was Robert Page Group. I think their revenue was 800 million last year, so obviously brought in like wads of cash. Their profit was £200,000, so you couldn't even put a deposit down for maybe this flat in London, So it just shows that yes, there's a lot of money coming in the door, but there's a lot of costs, and especially in a difficult economy at the moment, it's quite a difficult thing to navigate.
Pick it up on what you were saying in regards to the premium.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the level of service that a recruitment firm can provide over, let's say, a talent acquisition?
Yeah, it's a good question, and by no means
and why as well.
Yeah, by no means would I say that we're here to like conflict on those processes. Talent acquisition are absolutely key for every organisation and work very effectively with us on the agency side. Talent acquisition people are very stretched in what they do, and especially the company that I work with, we work in just very specific areas. So we're not a company that will go to like a big client and say, if you're hiring 1,000 people, we want all 1,000 vacancies. We'll say, no, to be fair, in our core areas, maybe 40 of those would be relevant. I appreciate we're not naive that companies would want to keep as many of those in-house as possible for cost reductions. So then if we can work 15 to 10 of those a year, like that's absolutely perfect for us. Like we want to be frank with our services in a good way to say that we'll deliver on this for you, but we're not going to take on more than we need, because then we're not really bringing value. So yeah, the benefits, I'd probably say, of working with an agency, it's a different set of eyes, I always say. Also as well, if someone is working for a company or if they're being represented by that company, they may think something different about how they approach that. So a salary discussion or rate discussion might be a bit more different when you're speaking directly to a company, whereas when there's an external agent, they may be a bit more kind of forthcoming with everything. And then lastly as well, in terms of like contract services, we engage with contractors, so we offer compliance solutions, which is obviously quite a big win to some companies when it's not on their on their head count or whatever. So that's pretty important.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is Colours of You podcast with William Paton, and thank you so much for being here. You're an absolute legend, and hope you enjoyed.
Thank you. Cheers, lad. I appreciate that.